So when you have agencies that have so much of monopoly, and then of course there's also discretion, and there is little accountability, or integrity system is not even in place, and transparency is absent, what you will see is some level of malfeasance that can happen in that system. And I think that's what government is trying to prevent. Don't forget that, of course, the Federal Revenue Allocation Commission has also been worried about the inflow of the money that is coming into SOUQ. So they've been trying to look for where leakages are coming from, and see whether those leakages can be blocked. So to that extent, the Federal Executive Council set up a committee to actually look at all the retained money in revenue generating agencies, and see what can government do to see that the money that's supposed to be in the federation account, which of course both state, local government and the federal governments are entitled to, are coming to them.
This is SOUQ Business Landscape.
The federal government has defended Executive Order 9, stating that it reinforces constitutional custody of federation revenues and does not confer legislative powers on the president. In a statement issued on Monday, February 23, 2026, Taminu Yakubu, Secretary of Implementation Committee on Executive Order 9, rejected claims that the directive amounts to the president's making law. He describes such interpretation as misreading of constitutional and public finance provisions, insisting that the order aligns with existing legal frameworks governing revenue management. Officials maintain that Executive Order 9 is aimed at strengthening fiscal accountability within the Federation. Now, for those of you who do not understand, Executive Order 9 basically means all Federation revenue must go into the Federation account. That's basically it. But why do people, when this order was given, NNDPRA and the rest of NURPC, they came out saying that, no, they resisted this particular order. Why do you think they are resisting this? Is there any thing we are not privy to?
Well, there's no way those agencies of government will not protest, especially when you look at it in line with the PIA, Petroleum Industry Act, that actually made provision that there should be some certain retaining of some sorts of revenue generation by the agencies of government. What that means is that it actually allowed them freedom of flexibility in terms of quickly accomplishing some projects. But again, like I've always said, Robert Clifford says the formula for corruption is when you have excessive monopoly plus discretion, and accountability is absent, then that's how corruption manifests. That's the definition of corruption. So when you have agencies that have so much of monopoly, and then of course there's also discretion, and there is little accountability, or integrity system is not even in place, and transparency is absent, what you will see is some level of malfeasance that can happen in that system. And I think that's what government is trying to prevent. Don't forget that, of course, the Federal Revenue Allocation Commission has also been worried about the inflow of the money that is coming into SOUQ. So they've been trying to look for where leakages are coming from, and see whether those leakages can be blocked. So to that extent, the Federal Executive Council set up a committee to actually look at all the retained money in revenue generating agencies, and see what can government do to see that the money that's supposed to be in the federation account, which of course both state, local government and the federal governments are entitled to, are coming to them. But people talk about executive order. Executive order is not a law, it's an administrative tool.
Yes.
Because Section 5, 1, sub 1 and A of the Federal Constitution of Nigeria 1999 as amended had actually empowered the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria with executive authority and power
Yes.
to ensure that the executive arm of government is managed and solely by him. And so he is the actual one who empowers all the MDAs, whether the directors, DGs, and then, of course, you can call them CEOs of government institutions, head of agencies, ministers. They are all appointees of government, and therefore they actually exercise their mandate on behalf of the government. And of course, executive order is not something that is trying to federal kind of government or presidential arrangement of government. And governments use it to ensure that they can manage the public trust that is committed to the president. And I think that is what it is. So it's not making a new law, but all it's trying to do is to ensure that the law that is made is protected and that money is not just being used without being accounted for. But you come to think about it, really. You have 30% that is retained of profit by an NPC. This money are not budgeted officially. There are no oversight over this money, how it's spent. And then, of course, if you have to wait for the trail of audit and you look at our audit strategy, which is quite very, very slow and post-mortem in its outlook, which means if you have finished spending money, before government can come to review that spending, it will take like 2 to 3 years or 4 years. As we speak, the result, the audit that the Public Account Committee is considering today is the audit of 2022.
But doctor, why is it that we don't get to audit every fiscal year, which should be done normally?
Well, it's not as simple, because when you look at Public Finance Management Act, it also says that the level of authorities that agencies of government had to...
Bureaucracies.
Yes, so a lot of bureaucracies are built into that system. And of course, you see, the agencies have to, first of all, consolidate whatever thing they have, audit it internally, forward to the office of the Auditor General of the Federation. You imagine Nigeria has between 800 to 1,000 MDAs.
Yes.
And each MDA is coming with basket of expenditure. And for the audit firm to finish considering those expenditure, you will find that it will take a whole lot of time. And that's why you see it's always post-mortem. I remember sometime in March 2023 when the Public Account Committee was being inaugurated. I was in that meeting because we facilitated a training session for members of that committee. And one of the things that the chairman of Public Account Committee of the House of Rep lamented was the fact that their works looks very useless because it's post-mortem. You are dealing with something that happened about 2 or 3 years ago. And then, of course, you cannot immediately effect correction so that things that are happening last year can be changed today. So these are the issues that government needs to deal with. And then I think the only way to be able to monitor this thing is what government is trying to do, that let all money come into one basket, and then from the basket we can distribute to those who need. And to that extent, it's more transparent. Government, the president himself can have oversight of what is happening, and we know how much come into the Consolidated Revenue Fund or the FAC, and then, of course, how much everybody is getting, and then people can plan within that space. If you are a revenue generating agent, and then, of course, you have cost of collection, and then, of course, cost of collection you set aside. But then, of course, by the time your salary and overhead are paid from government coffers. So how do we use this other money? It's at the discretion of those who run those agencies. And I think that's what government is trying to avoid. That's why all this kind of corruption that has affected most of these agencies happened because of this excess money that they have in their hands. So government is trying to see how to curtail this thing. So it's not making a new law. And if people feel that the executive order of government is ultra vires, they can actually also approach the court. And of course, to the extent to which it disagree with the provisions of the constitutions or the enabling acts of some of all these agencies, the courts of land can set aside those orders and it will be upheld.
All right, so in your words, who gets to control this basket and how do you ensure transparency in this basket?
Yeah, there's a commission that looks at that basket and see what comes in, and it's constituted of all the both government structure, whether at the state level, the federal level, and then of course local government. Everybody in that commission, the RAMFAC, Revenue Mobilization and Fiscal Commission, come together to see what come in. From what agencies are they coming in? How much are statutory deductions? What is going here? What is going here? And then the rest is shared between the federal and the state government.
Okay, so two questions. Is there an expected amount from each MDAs and agencies that this is the particular amount we're expecting? And if that particular amount or any other amount does not come in, what happens? Any repercussions? What follows next?
Yeah, government really don't have such a directive that you must produce certain amount. What the directive says is that if you are a fully funded agency of government, all the monies that you make, 100% should go into the TSA, Treasury Single Account.
How do
you
you
don't
monitor
need
that?
you don't need to withhold any form of it in your hand. Now, if you're a partially funded agency, which means government is not taking full responsibility of your operations, and then of course you also have to pay for some of your operation. Then of course government say certain percentage of all your revenue that's generated should go into TSA. And the purpose is to ensure that there's transparency, there's accountability in the mobilization of government resource. That is what it is. So every agency of government, they know. So if you are fully funded, which means government pays everything around you, and you are within the budgetary cycle of government, then of course you don't have the authority to retain some fund or revenue that you make. But some of these agencies are not fully funded agencies. Because they are not fully funded agencies, there's a law that empowers them to be able to do some certain things with their revenue. But what government is actually after is to see how transparent is the cost of collection. For example, I used to say to people, so when people look at National Assembly and say, oh, they are the ones spending all the money that we have. I said the budget of the National Assembly is not up to the cost of collection of 3 MDAs of government. Take, for example, custom, now Nigerian Revenue Service, and
Airports of
NNPCL. So those three agencies alone, not airport, those three agencies alone, custom, NRS, and then of course NNPCL.
What about port authorities?
No. I'm just talking about these three agencies alone. Their cost of collection that is retained is more than the budget of the National Assembly, all put together. So you see the kind of money that we're talking about here. So it's not small money. And that's what government is trying to ensure, that in its administration, that there is transparency in how that money is held and used.
In seeking transparency, do you think any mechanism should be put in place to ensure that the amount that is actually generated is being remitted? I mean, we have the likes of customs declaring 1 billion and the rest of them.
Yeah, but when you see those declarations, you also know that within those 1 billion, there's also the cost of collection, which they retain. So, but it's also good that government know what constitutes this cost of collection, for example. Take, for example, these issues that we're talking about, the executive order 9, where government is also looking at frontier exploration retainership fund, which means every revenue that NNPCL sees, they retain some certain money for exploration of gas and crude.
Okay.
Now, to what extent is this exploration going on? How do we spend this money to show that we're actually using this money for exploration? So these are the things that government needs to know, that these monies are not just kept to go into somebody's private pocket. And these are the reason why, of course, over the years, for over 30 years, we didn't see significant investment in the oil and gas sector in Nigeria. Even when all these things have been in place. And then, of course, this money we cannot see where exploration is going on and how this thing is being spent. So what government is trying to do is to clean up the entire system, so become transparent as possible. So I look at it and said, okay, this is what is coming into an NPCL, and this is how much they are remitting. And then, of course, from the federation account or the consolidated revenue fund of the federal government, then disbursement are made to these agencies, and then they can do or solve whatever problem that they have. But most importantly is to see that some of this money that, of course, these agencies by law are clear to be retained, government also need to have an oversight over it.